500 developers were surveyed. 65% said they prefer Codex CLI. But when their code was tested in blind reviews, Claude Code won 67% of the time. That's the contradiction that's tearing the AI coding community apart right now. One tool is faster, the other writes better code. One uses 4 times fewer tokens, the other catches bugs the first one misses entirely. Today, I'm settling this debate once and for all. I installed both. I built the same app with both. I tracked every token, every dollar, every minute. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one to use and when to use the other. Let's go. First, let's make sure we're on the same page about what these tools actually are. Claude Code is Anthropic's AI coding agent. It lives in your terminal. You type what you want in plain English, and it reads your files, writes code, runs commands, manages Git, and builds entire features while you watch. It also has a desktop app, a web app, and IDE extensions for VS Code and JetBrains. It runs on Claude Sonnet and Opus models with up to 1 million tokens of context. Think of it as a senior developer sitting next to you. Codex CLI is OpenAI's answer. Also, a terminal based coding agent, originally built in Node and TypeScript, then completely rewritten in Rust. It's now 95% Rust code. 76,000 GitHub stars. Open source under Apache 2. It runs on GPT 5.4, GPT 5.3 Codex, and Codex Mini. It also has a desktop app and a cloud version at chatgpt.com/codex. Think of it as a developer you hand tasks to and check on later. And that difference, sitting next to you versus handing off tasks, is actually the core philosophical split between these two tools. Installation is basically identical. Claude Code, open your terminal and run npm install-g at anthropic-ai/claude-code. Or brew install Claude-code on Mac. Then type Claude, authenticate with your Anthropic account, and you're in. Takes about 30 seconds. Codex CLI. npm install-g at openai/codex. Or download the Rust binary directly from GitHub releases. Then type Codex, sign in with your ChatGPT account, or paste an API key, and you're in. Also about 30 seconds. First point of difference. Codex requires Node 22 plus for the npm install, while Claude Code works with Node 18. But Codex also offers standalone binaries, so you can skip Node entirely. Call this one a tie. The interfaces look similar at first glance. Both are terminal UIs where you type prompts and watch the AI work. But the details matter. Claude Code gives you a streaming conversation view. You see it thinking. You see each tool call, reading a file, editing a line, running a command. Every action asks permission before executing, with options for yes, no, or always allow. It recently added Focus View, which strips away the noise and just shows your prompt and the final answer. The new desktop app gives you multiple sessions side by side, a built-in file editor, and live HTML preview. Codex CLI uses a full-screen terminal UI built with Rust's Ratatouille library. It takes over your whole terminal, clean and focused. The status bar shows your model, token count, cost, and Git branch in real time. When it finishes, exiting cleanly restores your terminal. The desktop app mirrors this with a visual interface. Key difference: Claude Code defaults to asking permission for everything. Codex CLI defaults to auto mode, where it reads, edits, and runs commands within your project without asking, but blocks network access. You approve the plan, then walk away. This is the fundamental split. Claude Code assumes you want to watch. Codex CLI assumes you want to delegate. Alright, time for the real comparison. I gave both tools the exact same task. Build a full stack expense tracker with React frontend, Express backend, SQLite database, user authentication, and a dashboard with charts. Same prompt, same machine, same starting point, an empty folder. Here's what I'm measuring: speed, who finishes first; code quality, which code is cleaner, safer, and more maintainable; cost, total tokens used, and total dollars spent; developer experience, which one was more pleasant to work with. And I ran each test 3 times and averaged the results. Let's go round by round. Round 1: Speed. Codex CLI finished the expense tracker in 14 minutes and 12 seconds. It immediately broke the task into subtasks, created the project structure, installed dependencies, built the backend, built the front end, wired them together, and ran in tests. Minimal interruptions. It asked me one question: which auth strategy to use, then executed everything else autonomously. Claude Code finished in 22 minutes and 41 seconds. It was more deliberate. It planned first, explained its approach, then built each piece step by step. It stopped 4 times to ask for file creation permissions and twice to confirm shell commands. But it also caught a potential SQL injection vulnerability in the login endpoint that Codex missed entirely. And it wrote unit tests without being asked. So, who wins round 1? If you are measuring raw clock time, Codex wins by 8 minutes. It's clearly faster when you hand it a well defined task. But those 8 minutes might cost you later if that SQL injection makes it to production. Round 2: Code quality. I ran both codebases through SonarQube, ESLint, strict mode, and a manual code review. Here's what I found: Claude Code's output had zero critical issues, 2 minor warnings, consistent naming conventions, comprehensive error handling, input validation on every endpoint, and clean separation of concerns. The React components used proper hooks, memoization where appropriate, and accessibility attributes on form elements. Professional grade code you could ship to production. Codex CLI's output had one critical issue: the SQL injection I mentioned. 4 minor warnings, slightly inconsistent naming between front-end and back-end, and no input validation on 2 endpoints. But the code was more concise, fewer lines, faster to read, and the database queries were more optimized. Codex generated proper indexes that Claude Code didn't think to add. This matches the broader data perfectly. In blind code reviews across 500 developers, Claude Code's output was preferred 67% of the time. But Codex's code was described as more practical and closer to how a fast senior dev would write it. Claude Code writes code like a careful architect. Codex writes code like a fast shipping engineer. Round 2 goes to Claude Code on quality. But it's not a blowout. Round 3: Cost. And this is where it gets really interesting. Claude Code consumed 6.1 million tokens to build the expense tracker. At API rates for Sonnet, $3 input, $15 output per million tokens, that works out to roughly $47. Codex CLI consumed 1.4 million tokens. At Codex mini rates, 150 input, $6 output per million tokens. That's roughly $6. Let me say that again. Same app. Claude Code, $47. Codex, $6. Almost 8 times cheaper. On subscription plans, the math is different but still favors Codex. Both offer a $20 tier, a $100 tier, and $200 tier. But Codex's token efficiency means your $100 plan lasts roughly 4 times longer before you hit rate limits. This is the single biggest reason developers are switching to Codex. Not because it's better, many of them openly say Claude Code produces better code, but because it's dramatically cheaper to run. Round 3 goes to Codex CLI by a landslide. Round 4, the safety model. This one matters more than most people realize. Claude Code uses an application layer permission system. Every tool call, file reads, edits, shell commands, gets intercepted, and you approve or deny it. Plus, a hook system with 17 lifecycle events that lets you write custom rules. Block force pushes, auto format after edits, run tests after changes. It's extremely flexible, but it's enforced at the software level. Codex CLI takes a fundamentally different approach. It uses OS level kernel sandboxing. On Mac, it uses Apple's seatbelt framework. On Linux, Landlock plus seccomp. These are the same security primitives your operating system uses to protect itself. The sandbox physically prevents the agent from accessing files outside your project or making network requests unless you explicitly allow it. The difference is architectural. Claude Code's hooks can technically be worked around by a sufficiently creative prompt injection. Codex's kernel sandbox cannot. It's enforced by the operating system, not the application. But Claude Code's hooks are far more flexible for customizing your workflow. You can create rules like never edit files in the legacy folder or always run prettier after saving. Codex doesn't have that granularity. Round 4 is a split decision. Codex for raw security, Claude Code for workflow customization. Round 5, the ecosystem. Both tools are now open source. Claude Code opened its source in early 2026 and ships updates nearly every day. It has a massive skill ecosystem, MCP server support, and deep integration with Anthropic's model lineup. The Claude.md file gives you a project level briefing document that Claude reads every session. Hooks let you automate lifecycle events. Custom/commands and skills let you extend functionality. And the new routines feature lets you schedule automated tasks that run on Anthropic's cloud, even when your computer is off. The community is passionate and growing fast. Codex CLI has been open source since day one under Apache 2. 76,000 GitHub stars, 430 plus contributors, over 700 releases. It's written in Rust, so it's fast and memory efficient. It has a native GitHub action for CI/CD integration, built-in image generation, built-in web search. And because it's open source with a massive contributor base, the community ships features at an incredible pace, nearly 2 releases per day. It also supports MCP servers and has its own /command system. Round 5 is a tie. Both are open source. Both ship fast. Claude Code has the more mature hooks and skills ecosystem. Codex has a larger contributor community and faster release velocity. Pick your poison. So who wins? Neither and both. Here's the truth the internet doesn't want to hear. The best developers in 2026 aren't choosing one tool, they're using both. The scoreboard says Codex edges it 2-1 with 2 ties. But scorecards don't tell the full story. Here's the framework that actually works. Use Claude Code when you're building something new and complex. When you need architectural decisions. When code quality matters more than speed. When you're working on front end and UI, when you want to pair program and learn from the AI's reasoning, and when you need hooks and custom workflows. Use Codex CLI when you have clearly defined tasks to delegate, when you're doing DevOps, infrastructure, or backend work, when cost is a factor. When you want autonomous execution, fire and forget. When you're running CI CD pipelines, and when you want your agent to work while you sleep. The smartest approach: plan with Claude Code, execute with Codex, review with both. One developer on Reddit put it perfectly: Codex for keystrokes, Claude Code for commits. That's the whole strategy in 6 words. If you want to go deeper on Claude Code specifically, I wrote a 44-page beginner's guide that covers everything from installation to advanced workflows, hooks, and the new desktop app. Link is in the description. Drop a comment and tell me, are you Team Claude Code, Team Codex, or Team both? I genuinely want to know. And if this breakdown helped you make a more informed decision, subscribe. I've got more head to head comparisons coming. See you in the next one.